If I gave you the perfect cold call script right now, word for word, most of you would still fail with it. We've watched reps tape the exact same screenplay with the exact same lead list, calling the exact same companies on the exact same day. And one rep books 3 meetings while another rep books 0. Every cold call training video on YouTube is trying to solve that same problem. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to walk you through all 4 parts. What's happening inside the prospect's brain in the first 8 seconds of a cold call, why the story you tell in the middle matters more than the pitch itself, why the way you ask for the meeting is almost always wrong, and why some SDRs book meetings consistently, while the rep sitting 20 feet away reading the exact same script can't book anything. And so it comes down to 4 things: your tone, your story, your offer, and something probably you've never heard of. And we're not just going to talk theory. Throughout this video, I'm going to play you real cold calls from actual campaigns, one that dies in 8 seconds, one that limps for 2 minutes before getting hung up on, and one that books a meeting worth $80,000 in under 90 seconds. You're going to hear exactly what works, exactly what doesn't, and why. Let's get into it.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, my name is Estette, and I'm calling from Halo Security. How are you today?
Good. Sorry, it's not a right time right now. Is this a sales call, by the way?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I think we talked previously a few weeks ago as well, and I kindly asked if our numbers can be removed from the list. Not sure why I'm still receiving calls.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I will make note of that and have you removed from our list. Sorry about that.
All right. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good
weekend.
Thank
you. Have a good one.
Let's break down what just happened. The rep said 9 words. The prospect hung up at word 9. And here's the weird part. The words weren't bad. Hi, this is, Kevin over at, insert company name. How are you today? That's the opener most companies teach on, day 1. So why did the prospect hang up? Because of what neuroscientists call threat detection. Here's what happens inside the prospect's brain in the first 7 seconds of a cold call. And I'm saying 7 seconds specifically because Chris Voss, the former FBI hostage negotiator, found that's the hard window you have to build trust or you're done. In those 7 seconds, the prospect brain isn't processing your words at all. It's running a primal checklist from the oldest part of the brain, the brainstem. And that checklist, asks 3 questions in order. Question 1, is this dangerous? Should I hang up, fight, or run? Question 2, can this benefit me? Any reason to keep listening? Question 3, can I ignore this? Is this worth any cognitive effort at all? All 3 questions get answered in under 7 seconds, and they get answered based on almost entirely on your tone. The prospect isn't analyzing what you said, they're reading your voice like a threat scanner. And here's what should concern every SDR watching this. The prospect you're calling has already been cold called 10 times this week, maybe 50. Their brainstem has built a template for what a salesperson sounds like. They sound rushed, overly polished, overeager, reeking of commission breath. The second your voice matches that template, the brain stamps ignore on you before you finish your second sentence. So your job on a cold call is to sound like the opposite of what the prospect's brain expects. Slower than they expect, calmer than they expect, more human than they expect. The antithesis of what their brainstem is braced for. And the biggest mistake new SDRs make is pace. They speak too fast in the opener because they're nervous. Somewhere in their head, they think if they talk fast enough, the prospect won't have room to say no. And so the fix, counterintuitive, is to slow way down. In the first 7 seconds, low and slow beats fast. The brainstem answered dangerous to question 1, no to question 2, and yes to question 3, can I ignore this? Before the rep even finished their sentence. Now, what's working right now in 2026? Gong analyzed 300 million cold calls. How are you today? Style openers convert around 2%. Permission-based opener converts at over 11%. As important as the words are, again, the difference is whether your tone gets you past those 3 questions. Okay, before we get into call 2, I need to step back and talk about something bigger because everything I'm about to tell you builds on one idea that humans have understood for thousands of years. We don't like it when people tell us what to do. We like our autonomy, but a good story will make us do anything. And if we want to get good at telling stories, we should look at the best-selling storybook of all time, and that's the Bible. Funny enough, the Bible has sold more copies than any book in human history, and it's probably not going to be dethroned anytime soon. And the primary figure inside that book, the one responsible for telling the most compelling stories in it, is Jesus. Whatever you believe about him, I believe in him, but you can't argue with the numbers. Billions of people across 2,000 years built their lives around what he said. His ideas spread further than any other teacher who ever lived. And the wild part is how he did it. He didn't feature dump. He didn't hand anyone a bullet pointed framework. He didn't say, here are the 7 rules you need to follow, and here's the ROI in each one. When Jesus wanted to teach something, he told a story. You have the prodigal son, you have the good Samaritan, the mustard seed, the sower and the seeds. They're called parables, short stories with characters and conflict and meaning buried inside. So Jesus, he wasn't trying to convince, anyone of anything. He just put a character in a situation and let you see yourself inside each one. It is much more dynamic than saying do this or do that. So, 2,000 years later, stories are still the most effective, dynamic way we can communicate with each other. Even before writing existed, humans passed down everything through stories. You have the cave paintings, oral traditions, myths, epics. For 99% of human history, if you wanted to transmit knowledge or values or survival information to the next generation, you told them a story. And it worked because something in the human brain is wired to receive information that way. When neuroscientists finally got around to studying this, they found exactly what you'd expect. Stories aren't just entertainment, they're how the human brain was built to process meaning. So every cold call you make is a question about whether you're going to tell a story the prospect is wired to hear, or whether you're going to hand them a boring spec sheet their brain is wired to reject, which brings us to call 2.
Hey.
Yes.
And this is Nia with, I know I'm catching you out of the blue. Do you have 30 seconds so I can share why I'm calling?
I can't imagine why you're calling for the security.
I'll just give you a quick high level if you have a few seconds, if that's okay. Appreciate that. And then before I get going, does Halo security ring any bells in your world?
No.
Gotcha, no worries. So super simple, provides expert manual pen testing that identifies vulnerabilities, even including business logic flaws, while ensuring our full OWASP coverage. And so some areas where we make the most impact are quick scheduling, flexible timelines, and direct access to our US-based testers. And so obviously there's a ton of pen testing firms out there, but our X factor is that we've secured over 2,000 clients with a 98% satisfaction rate. And so we provide tailored, budget-friendly solutions that meets compliance standards like PCI and GDPR. And so as a boutique firm, we prioritize long-term partnerships, including retesting at no extra cost. But super simple, I'm probably past my time here, and I'm not really looking to box you into a corner or anything. But does your calendar allow maybe tomorrow or the day after that for a quick 15-minute virtual tour of the platform, just so we could kind of share how we're helping businesses like secure their environments? Would you happen to have some time available by chance?
I really don't. I've got quite a few little projects that I'm working on right now, so my time is pretty full. We actually already contracted with another company to do all of this, and are still under contract with them. So we just did a pen test 2 weeks ago. So I think we're good right now.
Well, we that's great that you already have already investing in pen testing security. And many of our clients actually rotate between providers, just to kind of get a different perspective on different testing approaches. And then how we differentiate ourselves, with our US-based expert team, you get direct access to testers and dual reporting approach that includes, technical findings and compliance documentation.
Yeah, we get that as well with where we're at. So, and all the things you listed, they do the exact same thing. So, and we're pretty happy with them. So, all right. Thank you.
Well, thanks for your time. I'll let you get back to it.
Okay, bye.
So, see what happened there? The rep cleared the brainstem. The tone was fine. They got the permission. They started talking. And then somewhere around the 30-second mark, you could hear the prospect mentally leave the room. And here's why. Once you clear the brainstem, a completely different network activates. This is where Uri Hassen's work at Princeton comes into play. There's a system in the brain called the default mode network. It's the brain's meaning-making system. So what it does is it activates when you're thinking about other people, following a story, maybe imagining a scenario, tracking characters. And the DMN, in short, is the part of the brain that cares about the people, stories, and meaning. Think about it as like the brain's movie theater. It's also the part of the brain that hates abstract data and feature lists. This is exactly the system Jesus was targeting when he told parables. He wasn't trying to convince the logical brain, he was activating the storytelling brain. And here's what Call 2's rep did. They skipped the story entirely. They jumped from hi to we do X, we do Y, here's how it works. Complete feature dump. And feature dumps don't activate the DMN. They activate the parts of the brain that you use to solidify the decision you made emotionally. So we make decisions with emotions first, and then the logic comes out and seals the deal. The part of the brain that we pitch to loves movies, it loves art, it likes novelty, it likes drama, it likes to be moved emotionally. So as we pitch, everyone talks about solutions, right? The solution to a problem. Think about a bottle of NyQuil. What's printed on the front? It doesn't say acetaminophen compound. It says sneezing, coughing, sore throat, runny nose, the symptoms. And that's because of something neuroscientists call embodied simulation. When you hear sensory specific language words like drowning, sneezing, or buried, your brain doesn't just process them as concept. It actually fires the same neural circuits it would use if you were experiencing those things in real life. If a story describes the smell of cinnamon, your olfactory cortex lights up. If it describes someone running, your motor cortex partially fires. High sensory language makes the brain feel the symptom. Low sensory language, stuff like workflow efficiency and optimization solutions, makes the brain feel nothing. A brain that feels nothing is not going to commit towards any sort of action. I mean, look at how Jesus taught. When he wanted to teach about forgiveness, he didn't say, forgiveness is a virtue. Here are 4 reasons to practice it. He told a story about a father running down a road to hug a son who wasted the family fortune. You can picture the father, you can picture the son, you can feel the embrace. Your brain is simulating it right now, even as I describe it, hopefully. That's the oldest trick in the book, and it's almost the most powerful thing you can do on a cold call, which brings us to call 3.
Oh, hey.
Hello?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Hey. It's Micah over at,
Okay.
I know I'm catching out of the blue here, but I guess, do you mind if I grab half a minute? I'll tell you why I called, and you can let me know if it's relevant or not.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, appreciate that. So, and then, by the way, have you heard of, just by the off chance?
Vaguely, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Vaguely?
Not
okay.
too much, yeah.
Well, let me do this. I'll give you the quick 10-second refresher, and feel free to cut me off if it's not in your wheelhouse. But quick overview, we are currently trusted by over 1,400 companies and 87 of the Fortune 1000 to secure their environment. So think Amazon, Walt Disney, Google. And so the reason I pinged you, and as you probably know, 92% of attacks happen at the identity level, with email being a massive focal point of these breaches. And so what we discovered with our partner Abnormal Security is that most well-meaning organizations look at stopping these attacks by relying on basic authentication markers. So think SPF, DKIM, DMARC. And it's sort of the equivalent of bringing a leather helmet to play in a 2025 NFL speed football game, if you will. So really, to cut to it, really shines at working at the root level, the cause of these breaches, focusing on behavioral analysis through 47,000 different signals. But outside of that, besides email, we also help in other areas such as zero trust, cloud native security, AI security, that's really big right now, as well as hyperscale and consulting, just to name a few. But super simple. I don't want to overstay my welcome here, and I know you and the folks probably have a pretty robust security program in place already, but just want to see if you'd be completely opposed to carving out 14, 15 minutes for a coffee break style chat, just to put a face to the name, and then from there, maybe have another partner in your back pocket for down the road.
Okay, when are you talking about doing that? This 4th?
We have We have a couple of slots on Friday. If not, midweek next week is...
let's do Friday, because I have a couple of meetings that I have scheduled for Friday. Because right now, luckily for you, you caught us at a good time. We're building a network. So, yeah. So we are future-proofing. One of our main projects is future-proof a business with AI that's threatened by AI and by hardware, like a photography business. So we are involved in a lot of image processing using diffusion models. But we have part of the project is them building out a website for us. And later on, we're going to probably change that one again to be more specified once we build out the portfolio. So you called us at the right time. So security is one thing that we've already talked about. Not just security around the perimeter of the building, but security for the, images, private information for clients that we have. So, yes, there's plenty to do that. As long as it's not at noon on Friday. If you can find another time and send me an invite, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, I can make it easy on you. I'll send you an email calendar link. That way our schedules align. And then
we can do that.
If any fires or meetings pop up, you can just propose a new time versus, playing phone tag. Let's see. You said not noon Eastern time.
Yeah. Because I got a meeting I just made a few minutes ago on that. Yeah.
Gotcha. We've got a 1 p.m., a 2:30, and a 4:30.
Let's do a 2:30.
2:30? Okay. We'll shoot for that, and I'll go ahead and kick this over. What is the best email for you?
Yeah, I've been having a few problems with the one at att.net because sometimes they show up, sometimes at Gmail they always show up. Okay, yeah.
For sure. Okay, sweet. Well, yeah, I just kicked it over, so if you want to do me a favor, feel free to hit accept once you see it pop up. That way I know I didn't fat finger anything. And then, we'll keep this first chat high level, but obviously, everyone's in a different spot in sort of their security journey. I guess, do you know how many endpoints roughly you guys are supporting or will be supporting today?
Initially, it's going to be as smallest that you can, but we've already figured we're going to have to spend a little additional money. And going forward with what we're trying to do with not just that one facility, but it's going to be another facility that's coming up. The first facility is about a little bit shy of 10,000 square feet for that building, but we have global significance with my business being in that building. The owner of the physical location, their business is like relegated to just the southeast. Well, my business is global. So I don't know. I'm going to need you guys to, once I give you a little bit more context, I'm going to need you guys to, because I don't want something that's ad hoc. And so since we are at this particular point in the initial phases, I want something, because that's been the topic of discussion on LinkedIn about cybersecurity being well-baked into what we do is in artificial intelligence, especially when we talk about data governance and protecting people's, information. So I'm looking to future-proof that business, but I really want to make sure I'm protecting people's, their information properly. So that's the reason why I said, let's do Friday, because we're in initial phases right now. So I don't know. You guys are probably you're the experts, So I don't know yet. Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Yeah, then we can definitely keep it high level and relevant to, the projects coming down the pipe for you guys.
I got it.
Sweet. And then any other folks you want to loop in for this first chat, or do you want to?
I'm probably gonna loop in, but I can send her the link if it's not a problem. She's the owner of the facility, but she generally leaves me up to handling all the, cyber and all the other major parts of the project. She leaves that up to me. So, but I would love for her. I'm trying to encourage her to be more involved in certain things. Because we've really been having some intense conversations about securing the premises and also securing the network. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm glad. Okay. I'm glad you called. You picked a good time to call.
All right.
We've been at this for about 2 months now. Yeah, almost 2 months now. Having deep conversations and entertaining folks. And you're the first cybersecurity person that we've spoken to. We talked to folks that do like physical security. They're securing the premises and stuff like that. But the amount of data we're going to be collecting, that's another thing, Yeah.
100%. Okay, great. Well, since I think that's everything I have for you, anything else you have for me before I let you get back to it here?
No, I'm looking forward to talking to you.
All right. Well, appreciate the time here. And if you want to do your due diligence on us, again, .com, it's in the email as well, where you can check out all our white papers, case studies, and whatnot. And if you have any other questions, feel free to tee them up for the call on Friday.
No problem. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Appreciate the time. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
That call booked $80,000 in pipeline. Every single thing you heard was engineered. It started with the opener. He had great pace. The stammers, the uhs and the ums, that wasn't a mistake. That's what a real human conversation actually sounds like. Notice how slow it was. They were the antithesis of what the prospect's brain was braced for. The brainstem answered not dangerous in under 3 seconds, so that checkpoint cleared. Then the permission-based opener. The rep said something like, do you mind if I grab half a minute to tell you why I called, and then you can tell me if this is even in your wheelhouse. So 2 things happening at once. First, asking permission is itself a trust signal. Second, the part most people don't talk about, the moment the prospect says yes, they've made a verbal commitment. And the way that we're wired as humans is to protect something called consistency. When you say you'll do something, your brain experiences real discomfort. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance if you don't follow through. People want to be people over their word most of the time. It's a form of integrity. That rep just got the prospect to promise 30 seconds of listening. Now the prospect's own brain is going to fight to keep that promise. That's not a trick. That's basic human psychology. Then the middle of the call, this is really where the magic happens. The rep isn't pitching at them. They're telling a story, a parable. Same, structure that Jesus used. Character facing a problem, tension building, resolution coming. A lot of people in your role right now are dealing with this and this and this, not to mention this. That's the NyQuil label. They're listing the prospect's actual symptoms. Listen how they emphasize the symptom words. They're not just saying them, they're punching them, highlighting the words in the prospect's mind so they stick. This is where Yuri Hassan's research at Princeton supports this theory. Hassan's team at Princeton put 2 people in fMRI machines. One person told a vivid story, and then the other person listened. And what they found changed how we understand human communication forever. When someone tells a good story, the listener's brain activity starts to synchronize with the storyteller's. Hassan calls this neural coupling. A good story doesn't just transmit information, it puts 2 brains in the same exact state. That's what's happening in call 3 between seconds 30 and 75. The rep isn't just talking at the prospect, their brains are literally syncing up. The prospect is starting to see the world the way the rep sees the world because the rep's words are firing the same neural patterns. That would fire if the prospect were living the story themselves. This is why stories work. It's why people love Star Wars films, why your friend's wild story from last weekend keeps you captivated. There's nothing like, when your friend's like, dude, you wouldn't believe this. We went to this concert and I accidentally stepped on this lady's foot. And then she went and she tried to punch me in the face. I ducked away from it and I did a spin move and you wouldn't believe it. The band shouted me out. Like that's what keeps you on the edge of your seat and sitting listening to your friend's story for the next 90 minutes. So by the time the rep gets in call 3, gets to the close, the decision has already been made at a level below conscious thought for the prospect. Now let's get to the story that you decide to tell. This is what separates the amateurs from the professionals. And it's something that most of the SDR training out there I haven't seen covered. And it's less about technique and more about craft. everything we've talked about so far, the story, the NyQuil label, neurocoupling, it only works if the story is specific to the person you're talking to. And a specialist always beats a generalist in their own domain. Generic stories, they don't activate the default mode network. They don't, trigger embodied simulation, and generic stories don't create neural coupling. The prospect's brain has a template for generic sales pitches, the same way it has a template for generic openers, and it rejects them just as fast. More specific stories, we call these the deep cuts. Any band you love has a handful of singles everybody knows. Think like Frank Ocean's Thinking About You, right? The radio plays them, casual fans sing along to them, but the true fans, the ones who've actually spent time with the band's discography, love the deep cuts. The songs on track 7 of album 4, it never got airplay. Maybe it's an unreleased YouTube song, the B-sides. And when you meet another fan who knows the deep cuts, you immediately know they're the real deal. They're not faking it. They've been there. And a cold call works in the exact same way. When you're talking to a prospect, the generic pain points are kind of like the singles. Pipeline is down. Budgets are getting cut. It's hard to hit quota. Every SDR in the world is saying these same exact phrases. The prospect has heard this song 1,000 times. Their brain has a template, and the template is labeled generic sales pitch. Ignore. And the deep cuts are different. The deep cuts are the problems only the real insiders know about. The specific workflow headaches that don't show up in the marketing copy. The invoice line items that quietly eat margin. The internal team conflicts that nobody outside the industry would ever guess at. The seasonal cycles, the regulatory pressures, the 3-letter acronyms that only people in that exact role use. And when you drop a deep cut into a cold call, the prospect's brain does something completely different. They go, how does this person know about that? Specifically, an SDR or salesperson. Their brainstem relaxes, their default mode network lights up, and the template flips from salesperson ignore to insider listen. Here's how you actually get the deep cuts. You do the work. You interview the executives at your clients' companies before you launch their campaign. And you ask them questions like, what are some of the lesser known pain points of your ICP that no one likes to talk about? What are the things, if I was up late on the forums, late at night, looking at the message boards, what are the tiny micro problems that no one would ever see on a company's website? Just like that, you download the white papers, you go on the message boards, you talk to the real people that are experiencing the problem that the company that you're with is trying to solve. And now that we have AI, you can literally just talk to AI for hours and hours to find these underrated nugs that you can use in your screenplay. Every screenplay we write at Exis starts with a deep research call with the client. We like to have someone, that's deep on the technical side, an executive, and then someone maybe even on the sales engineering side. And when we talk to them, we're primarily hunting for the deep cuts. The lines that make an insider go, oh, this person definitely gets it. And the critical part, the deep cuts are going to be about volatile cyber insurance premiums, regulatory compliance pressure related to their industry, maybe the internal politics of reporting a breach to the board. If you're calling a founder at an e-commerce brand, the deep cuts could be are going to be about ROAS compression and fatigue and the nightmare of building a new customer acquisition channel when the old ones stop working. Two completely different deep cuts, two completely different brains. The more specific, the deeper the neural coupling. The more the prospect feels like you're understanding them, the faster they lean in. And once you've crafted your messaging, you'll want to test the conversion rates for each angle through your connect rates. How often are this ICP picking up the phone, your connect to conversation rate, and your conversation to meeting rate. And understanding your math behind the message is what separates the reps who book meetings and the reps that burn through lists. Once you've got your deep cuts, the next question is, how do you actually deliver them so they land? And here's the part that most inside sales shops are not covering. If stories are how you activate the prospect's brain, then the building blocks of those stories are literary devices. So think metaphors, similes, alliteration, automatopoeias, imagery, personification. And I know those sound like fancy English class terms, but they're actually tools that make a story land in the brain instead of sliding off it. Every great screenplay I've ever called on uses them. And I'm going to show you exactly how, using real lines pulled from real campaigns we've run. So first, metaphor. The brain processes metaphors as simulations in your own brain. So when I say a drowning front desk, your brain flashes to an image of water, chaos, maybe someone gasping for air. Compare that to a busy phone system. One is a picture and the other is a phrase. In our cybersecurity campaigns, we use lines like, a recipe for blind spots. In our logistics campaigns, we talk about money pits. When we want to describe the big threat looming over a prospect's industry, we call it the 1,000-pound gorilla. When we want to describe fake vendor credits that look real on paper but disappear in practice, we call them monopoly money. Every one of these metaphors makes the prospect see something, and if they see it, they feel it. And if they feel it, then they'll remember it. Similes do the same work, but with like or as, which gives them a little extra breathing room. In one of our banking campaigns, we tell prospects that getting a second opinion on a contract is like getting a second opinion from a specialist after your doctor already gave you a diagnosis. And then personification, which gives human qualities to things that aren't human. When we say the contract language will bite you, 3 years from now, we're turning a legal document into something with teeth. When we say where the poison pills hide, we're making an inanimate clause into a living thing, waiting to ambush the prospect. So personification works because the brain evolved to track agents, things that move and act with intent. Turning a contract into an agent makes it feel immediate and dangerous instead of abstract. And then last, imagery, high sensory specific concrete language. This is the NyQuil principle in its purest form. In one of our cybersecurity screenplays, we don't say the cybersecurity landscape is evolving. We say the current cyber war, where CISOs are forced to adapt to the pressures of new threats, keeping up with regulatory changes, and not to mention the volatile nature of cyber insurance premiums. You can feel the pressure and you can picture the battlefield. And none of that imagery is accidental. Every word was chosen because it carries weight. And here's why that matters. Every literary device you use is another hook in the prospect's brain. One metaphor gets you one image. One simile gets you one comparison. One alliteration gets that one sticky phrase. And you stack them throughout the screenplay and you build a story that's felt, not just heard. So as an SDR, you have this massive studio space of literary devices to use that can help garner attention. And most SDRs are like artists painting with like 3 colors. The best ones are using the entire palette on the call. Now here's the most important part of the entire video, and it has nothing to do with the words on your coffee-stained script. The most important part of cold calling is your performance. And there's a reason we call these screenplays and not scripts. A script is something you read. A screenplay is something you perform. When you perform something, you have an entire toolkit most reps never touch. Your voice is an instrument, and most SDRs are playing it with one finger. So think about, that conversation with your best friend, the last time something crazy happened to you and you told him about it. Nobody taught you tonality in that moment. You sped up when it got exciting. You slowed down when you wanted to emphasize something. You dragged a word to build tension. You paused before the punchline. Your hands were moving. You probably stood up. You were animated, natural, and certain, because with your best friend, you have no mask on. And that's your target vocal state on a cold call, not like some sales voice. It's the voice you use when you're telling someone you genuinely believe the story you are telling at the deepest parts of your soul. And most SDRs get this wrong. They sit down at their desk, they put on their headset, they hunch over, over their screen on their laptop and try to deliver the screenplay like they're reading a teleprompter. Their body is frozen, that their face is flat, their hands are pinned, and they wonder why their voice sounds dead. Since it's a cold call, your body is actually a part of your voice. Even on the phone, you cannot physically access certain tones sitting hunched in a chair with your hands down. So try it right now. Grab any fiction book, point to a random page, and start recording on your phone and read it out loud. But keep your hands down, your face unanimated, and stop recording. Now, record a new take. What I want you to do is basically read that as if you're playing charades. Get your hands moving, your facial reactions in, move your eyebrows up, crunch your face, get into it, and then stop recording. When you listen back, you'll notice it's 2 different voices. Different energy, different conviction, different timbre of your voice. And what you'll find is the body creates the tone, and the tone is what the prospect is hearing on the phone. So one can't live without the other. And when you're cold calling, if you're not moving, you're not performing. Now, as you're performing, you're gonna notice there are different notes that you can access in your vocal toolkit. You have tonal notes. A down tone at the end of a sentence signals authority and confidence. And that's effectively what we tackle. Voice drops, settled, An uptone at the end signals curiosity and invitation. Does that name ring a bell? Voice lifts up, open. A sliding downtone creates gravity, a recipe for blind spots. Slow descent lands heavy. You have delivery techniques. You can drag a word to build tension before the payoff. You can staccato to punch impact. High stakes, legal and compliance space. You can rattle off a list fast to signal I've said this a million times. This is just the background. You can fragment your speech. Let words stumble over each other naturally to sound unscripted and human. You can smooth roll a phrase slowly to convey calm and control. And this is where the literary devices come full circle. Every piece of imagery you wrote into the screenplay only works if you perform it. The metaphor of a recipe for blind spots only carries weight if you drag the word recipe and let blind spots slide down into gravity. The imagery of the rising cost of insurance premiums only paints a picture if your voice goes heavy on rising and lets the whole line settle. The words and the performance are one machine, and writing a good screenplay without performing it is like writing a song and then refusing to sing it. Writing a good screenplay without performing it is like writing a song and refusing to sing it. Underneath all of it, the thing that makes this work or fail is belief. If the prospect senses that you don't believe what you're saying, none of this works at all. You can't fake it, and the call is dead before you even realize what happened. You need to believe the words in your screenplay, and you need to believe the meeting is worth the prospect's time. That's why we're cold calling, is to book the meeting. And if you believe that, your voice will carry you. And if you don't, no screenplay on earth will save you. Speaking of believing the meeting is worth the prospect's time, here's a question I don't hear many SDRs asking. Why should the prospect take the meeting? And I don't mean because your product is great. I mean, literally, like, what is the meeting? What are they getting when they show up? Because if the answer is they're getting pitched for 30 minutes, the prospect's brain already knows that, and the brain's answer is most likely a no. And this is part of the cold call that many sales reps and SDRs overlook. They spend all of their energy on the opener and on the pitch and the close, and then they ask for the 30 minutes, which is no reason for the prospect to say yes beyond, I guess I could hear you out. So Alex Hormozi wrote a whole book called $100 Million Offers about this exact problem. His thesis is that the quality of your offer determines the quality of your outcome. A bad offer gets ignored no matter how good your marketing is. A great offer sells itself even if your marketing is rough. Most people think about offers in the context of the actual product they're selling, but here's what changes it on the cold call. The meeting itself is an offer. When you ask the prospect to book a call, you're not asking for 30 minutes of their time, you're presenting them with an offer. And like any offer, the better it is, the more likely they are to accept. The worse it is, the more likely they'll dodge. Most SDRs are offering the prospect a 30-minute pitch and then wondering why nobody wants it. Of course, nobody wants it. Who wakes up excited to get pitched? The fix is to make the meeting itself valuable, something the prospect gets real tangible value from, even if they never become a customer. Something that costs money if they want to get it anywhere else. So let me give you some real examples from campaigns we've run at Exodus. In our banking campaign, the meeting is a free vendor health check. My client looks at the bank's current core vendor contract. We compare the rates and terms to what other banks their size are actually paying, and we tell them whether they're getting bamboozled or not. In our e-commerce marketing campaign, the meeting is a free complimentary new revenue model. Before the prospect is committed a dime, they build them a full revenue forecast showing exactly how much organic search revenue they could capture, at different budget levels, all the way down to the keyword. Most agencies charge for that strategy work. They hand it over in the first meeting. So you notice the pattern. In every case, the prospect is getting something real, something specific, something that would cost them money. When you set up the meeting this way, the psychology of the close completely changes. You're giving them something they'd otherwise pay for. The question isn't, will they take the meeting? The question becomes, why wouldn't they? But the fact of the matter is, you can give some sort of value in the meeting. Maybe it's your expertise, maybe it's a strategy session, maybe it's some sort of assessment. Name it something besides a 30-minute call, and the value immediately goes up. There's one more piece I haven't told you about yet, and it's the most counterintuitive thing in this whole video. It's called going negative. Most SDRs are terrified. The negative prospect, the skeptical one who's pushing back, that's the buyer. They're negative because they actually understand the problem. Going negative means matching their energy and pulling them further. You become more skeptical than they are. You agree the problem is worse than they think. because nobody expects a salesperson to agree with their objections. Their brain completely flips. The reverse psychology pulls them towards the meeting. Here's the part most people miss. Going negative isn't just for objection handling. You use it in 2 places across the entire screenplay. So 1, in the intro, the permission-based opener is a form of going negative. I know I'm an interruption here. You're acknowledging the worst thing about the call. That's going negative. It disarms the brainstem's threat check because the prospect was bracing for a salesperson to pretend they weren't an interruption. And so you didn't pretend, you named it. Their brain flips from threat to this person is different. 2, in the downsell and close. Hey, John, I'm sure you probably already have a great solution in place already. We're probably not a fit for every type of team. Not saying the success we had with them would be the same with you. Every one of these phrases is going negative. You're lowering their guard, you're reducing the pressure, you're removing the need for the prospect to defend themselves. And counterintuitively, the less you push, the more they lean in. Here's what I want you to remember from this video. You're not selling a product on a cold call. I'd argue you're not even pitching a meeting. You're telling a story to a stranger over their phone, using the voice as an instrument, offering them something genuinely valuable at the end. Trying to sync 2 brains together in 90 seconds. Get that right and the meetings take care of themselves. Now, I'm not going to send you off to figure all of this out on your own. I put together 2 free resources that give you everything you need to build your own screenplay, both linked in the description below. The first one is the cold call screenplay blueprint. It's the exact fill in the blanks template we use at Exodus when we build a new screenplay from scratch. Every section from the opener to the story to the downsell and close mapped to what you just watched. The second one is the psychology and performance cheat sheet. All the frameworks from this video in one reference doc. Brainstorm checklist, the NyQuil principle, the deep cuts framework, the literary device toolkit, the vocal toolkit. Keep it next to your monitor when you're calling. Both are free. Definitely grab them and build your own screenplay, and I'll see you on the phones.